Hey everybody, welcome back to the video channel. I'm not sure what I'm going to call this one. Maybe just watch Nathan scribble. I finished the Take 10 challenge I was doing, which was a 10-minute block of every day I was forcing myself to set aside to work on art. And after that, pretty much just been trying to get whatever spare moments I can. I did find that the discipline involved in doing Take 10, and you can see the other videos on my channel if you look for them, that actually helped me quite a bit, finding time to do stuff after the Take 10 challenge was over. So that was good. Purpose served. That was the whole point, actually, was to sort of change my habits. Help me sort of realize that it is possible to get time to do this stuff if you work at it. So what I've got here today on the drawing tablet is a drawing pad, actually. This is a brown paper sketchbook. It's an odd size. I guess it's a A4 plus size piece of paper. It's a little bit longer than A4. It's a handmade sketchbook, actually. I got from this little art store in a suburb called Newtown. They have lots of cool stuff. It's like a bohemian area. I've mentioned it before on the webcast. It's nice. A lot of cool stuff. Very, like I said, art schooly bohemian type area. The art stores there have handicrafts and things from the local people. So this was a sketchbook made by a local artisan, I suppose. It's just craft paper mounted on a spiral bound thing with a plastic cover, so it's good. It's pretty cheap too, so it's good. I like having cheap sketchbooks because I tend to mess them up. I have done a lot more sketching in sketchbooks now than I used to do. I have probably a stack of sketchbooks that I've owned for 10 years and none of them were ever finished. Half of them don't have anything in them at all. Because I'll buy it because I think it's going to be great and it's good for a certain purpose, and then I just won't get around to using it. But I'm trying to sketch more, and I'm trying to keep my stuff together more. Not thematically so much as just physically, so I can find it again. So having sketchbooks rather than loose pieces of paper is good for that. I'm still the king of the scraps, though. I got folders full of just scrap papers with little doodles on them. And having the phone I can draw on the Samsung Galaxy Note 4 actually has a decent screen finally. I had the Galaxy Note 2 before. It had some trouble with it. It had dead zones in the screen. I don't know if it was just certain software didn't work with it right or what the problem was, but there was lots of trouble drawing with that phone, so I didn't actually do it very much. Now that this one's working fairly well, and I have a few applications I'm using for it, it's been a lot more successful. I've been storing a lot of my drawings on that, so that's even better. I can actually export those directly to Instagram or Facebook or whatever, so it's a lot easier to get the stuff out there when you draw it digitally. I guess Instagram's not so hard for any kind of drawing, really. You just, with your phone, you just snap a photo and send it up. I do like that. I have been active on Instagram since rediscovering it lately. I find it a very, very useful way to just throw stuff out there. And it's funny, I get a lot of hits and things, a lot of support. I thought Tumblr was actually good for that, but I think Tumblr might be a little saturated. And it's not just an audience of visual people on Tumblr. I mean, Tumblr is still primarily a visual posting place, but a lot of it's political and just life stuff. Like, check out what happened here and look at this thing here, and, you know. I wanted something a little more art focused. So far Instagram's pretty good for that. I'm following some really great artists on there. Some of my favorites are on there. And I've got some people following me. A few. The cool thing is when I post something, I think it's the time difference between here and the States, but it seems like when I post something there's only about an hour lag before I start getting some hits on it. Probably because I usually post here at around midday there. So more people are seeing the stuff than would be here, because here's like, it's midnight here when I post that kind of stuff. It's good though, I like it. And it's like I said, it's easy, which is a really big thing. Lower that bar. make it easier to post, and you'll see a lot more posting happen. Just working on sort of just a drawing of a reptile-y type creature. It was going to be a dragon, but it always ends up looking like an alligator with a thyroid problem. That's because I am infatuated with texture, especially badly made up texture like these scales here. All my monsters are mutants. There's not like a healthy natural creature among them because that's too hard. It requires getting stuff right, which I'm not very good at. But the cool thing about having all this texture means that I get to do practice lighting. I'm trying a new technique here that I just found out. I didn't find out about it, but I mean, I just tried it today. You draw a colored pencil, and it's on tone paper or whatever, which I like drawing anyway. But then you go back over it with a graphite pencil. Yeah, for not just for shadows, but for details. I've also just recently, imagine, if you can imagine this, I'm drawing for like 10, 15 years, right? Seriously, for like 5 years. And I just now realized how important it is to have a sharp point on your pencil if you want to do fine detail. I used to just, whatever the tool was, I just worked with it, you know? And I would either get too far into the drawing or get too lazy to actually want to sharpen it up and change, because that would change the dynamics of how I was drawing, so I just sort of went with it. And as the point degraded, I changed my technique so I could take advantage of that. It sounds adaptive and good, but really it was just kind of a crutch. A way for me to deal with not getting what I wanted out of the drawing. But I'm trying to be done with that whole excuses thing. The picture in my head is what I want. Or in the case of something like this, when I was just making it up as I go, which I do a lot, unfortunately. Being true to what, once it starts forming into something, trying to be true to that is what I want. Like the perspective on this head is a little bit wonky still, but I redrew it like 4 times as just a box to get the perspective better. Because it was important to me to have this pose. And because that kind of discipline is what I'm going to need if I'm going to try to turn this into a job. You can't just say it's good enough for a drawing for someone else, because they're not going to say that. You have to be prepared to give them more than they want, so that they're very pleased. They will return for your services later. That's very important. Apologies if I sound a little weird. I've had kind of a sickness lately. Headaches and sinus pain and some sniffling. Typical whiny stuff, you know. But it's alright. It doesn't keep me from drawing, so that's good. Any more than regular stuff keeps me from drawing. Today I worked on, God, I think I did like 4 different projects today. This is the 4th one. I'm trying to catch up on my daily drawing. I'm doing daily drawing for 2015. Hey! And I'm only behind by 2 or 3 days already. But yeah, I'm trying to catch up for that. And those are all going straight to Instagram, and then double back on Facebook and my Tumblr as well, if you guys are interested in following along with that. Seeing what kind of business I get up to on a daily basis. So I went from allowing myself 10 minutes a day to commitment that requires more than that, because I am a crazy person. I don't know, changes are coming up soon in my life. I might have a little more free time here coming up soon. We shall see how that plays out. Hopefully good, hopefully well, and I do have the free time. That would be nice. But it also behooves me to not just, for want of a better word, dick around with the free time. Exploration and doodling and stuff is great, and today I learned a few new techniques for sealing drawings on paper and on board. So I've tested out some great stuff. Once those results come back, I'll know for sure if I can use these techniques for real things, and then I'll have to start making real things with them. Because the days when I can just play around and then forget about it, not right now. I really need to get a body of work together. I got some shows coming up. I want to start selling stuff. I'm going to need to start selling stuff. It's very important that I start devoting myself more seriously to the fine art of finishing something. Finishing something good. Finishing's hard enough, but finishing something that's worthy of like selling. And it's not just my opinion that the artist, hates his own work and all that stuff. That's true, but in this case, it actually needs to be good enough that other people want to buy it, because I am going to be selling things, and not just sketchbooks like before, but like hopefully commissions, but also finished works. This show we're having, a few of us are having in, I think it's April, is a gallery show. We're renting out some space for ourselves. It's not like it doesn't mean we're all moving up in the art world or anything, but hopefully it'll mean some of us can sell some stuff and get some name recognition out there and maybe get some illustration work out of it. That would be great. I'm still trying to figure out a socially acceptable way of putting advertising into my art exhibit so people know that I'm available for commissions and illustration. Should be fun. But it'll also be my first public showing of work in Australia, which I haven't actually done a public showing of work since school, back in college, so it's a little bit of a big deal to me. I feel like I'm better than I've ever been, artistically speaking, so that's a good point, but whether that translates into good enough remains to be seen. I've seen some of the local art here in Australia. There's some really good artists, even just in Sydney. There's some good artists out there. There really are. And it's not a competition, but you have to understand the playing field. And I'm not looking to break into the fine art market, or necessarily, or become a gallery artist or anything. I just want to get stuff out there that people want to have, don't want to own pictures of. Camera? Invisible person I'm talking to? Actually, I'm talking to you guys, YouTubers, and thanks everybody again for watching these little fun things with me yammering away. I've actually recorded another show since doing Take 10 that I have not narrated yet because my camera wasn't working properly, so I couldn't actually do the voice live like I'm doing this one. So I have to do a voiceover for it, which means more time. So that's why I haven't done that one yet. But I will, and I'll publish it. I'll throw it out there. It's going to be a speed draw because the drawing took me about an hour, and I don't want anybody to have to watch me for an hour fiddling around with stuff. I feel like maybe for a painting someone would watch an hour when I've got an established idea to start with, the drawing, in place. But watching me fumble around and find the drawing is not very much fun. It's not fun for me either. So I'm just throwing in values here, some loose value information. The thing that I was working on today where I did this technique before was on a piece of board, actually doing it for prep for a painting. So technically this is my underpainting, where you establish value and possibly color information, in my case just value, and of course the actual shapes and things for it to be painted. I love scales, folks. Even though I'm doing them all wrong. Scientifically, this is horribly inaccurate. He looks like he's made out of broken glass or something, but as long as it gives a convincing illusion of chunks of matter, flat chunks of material pressed against each other that have a dimly reflective kind of surface, I am a happy, happy man. And it makes him look more like a reptile, so. My reptiles have big square scales for some reason. They're made in a factory. That's funny. It's like comic book simplification with realistic lighting. I should be doing something like this. Give the scale some character and some shape. Real alligator scales look like squares, but when you get close to them, they're actually, I can't recall if they're six-sided or what, but they're definitely a geometric shape, and it's not a square, I don't think. It's not even like they're scales, really. They're just like raised ridges of skin. They're not like snake scales. I don't think they are, if I'm thinking about the right thing. I went to the Sydney Museum a couple of days ago to see an exhibit on the Aztecs, which was really cool. I enjoyed that very much. And I got a chance to wander some of the other exhibits in the museum. I haven't been there in a while. And they have this room set up with just skeletons. But before you get in there, there's a little display with natural armor kind of thing. They had like a turtle, giant tortoise, pangolin, like a big one, and armadillo, and just some really cool scale stuff. Oh, and like crustaceans too, like crabs and lobster and things. And a BMX motocross jacket, just to throw that in there for armor. They also had like a Japanese kendo armor, like traditional kendo armor, the bamboo stuff, and I don't think it was battle armor. It was very ornate. I think it was probably ceremonial or training armor. It was cool. Just a little side thing, like, here you go, while you're walking down the hall, learn something about armor. And I love armor and stuff like that, so it was very illuminating. And now I have some reference photos of pangolins and Japanese armor. So I can draw a pangolin in Japanese armor. You heard it here. That seems a bit redundant to me, but just the kind of wacky that I would normally do, I guess. Pangolin and armor. What's next? You gonna do a whale with scuba gear? Have a respirator up on top of his blowhole. Oh, I'm tired, folks. When am I not tired, right? But like the old spiritual says, change is coming. You're gonna be here soon. Hopefully. One way or another. I don't know how much longer I can keep things the way they are now, time-wise. I don't have time for anything. I'm skipping sleep to do this right now. I should be asleep by now. I have to be up in about 6 or 7 hours to go to work. And for everyone out there who doesn't have to do that, and has no idea how bad it is, which I'm sure is not many people at all, it's not fun. It kind of sucks. Just the knowing of it sucks. I'm sitting here thinking every minute I spend drawing, which I love to do, is going to cost me tomorrow. It's going to hurt me tomorrow. That's a bad feeling. I do like drawing in colored pencil, though. It's been a while since I've done that. Usually I would be doing this with markers to get smooth blending and stuff, but I get more control of the colored pencil, and if I don't press too hard, which I tend to do anyway, you can actually erase it. More or less. The thing I like about the softness of the colored pencil, the wax in it, lets you blend the tone together. I mean, you get that with graphite too, but it doesn't smudge either. See, there's no colored pencil really, well, a little bit on the side of my hand, but it doesn't just erase it completely if I do this. Whereas if I try to do that with a graphite pencil, gone. Speaking of that, let's switch to graphite. So you can see a little more than what I'm talking about with the technique. The colored pencil is great for the tone and the shadowing, because you get opacity. Graphite can be opaque and less opaque too, but it has a tendency to be kind of, because it's black or just dark silver, gray or whatever, it's very, very bold. It's hard to kind of get away from the influence of it. You can't, the only way to be subtle with it is to do lines like, little bitty lines like this. Whether for hatching or whatever. You try to do a flat, broad shape with it, and it just ends up looking like a big black shape. It's very, nothing subtle about that. I'm finding out one of the keys to professional looking work that I've been lacking most of my life is subtlety. I tend to go up my work like a hacksaw kind of mentality. Very kind of serviceman. You know, like get the shape down, get the idea across. Don't worry about anything else. And that's, I guess that's a useful attitude to have and to keep yourself going, but it's not very productive when the result is not aesthetically pleasing in the least and nobody wants to even look at it. Might be effective, but only if you're trying to be disquieting. So I tend to do stuff that's supposed to be disquieting so I can not have to use a refined technique. To see, whereas the colored pencil makes like a soft blended shade for these grooves in the skin, the graphite gives you the shadow edge, and it refines form much better because it's harder. You get a sharper point. Technically I should be shading the backs of these more because this light's supposed to be coming from here, more or less. That's an interesting technique with pencil. When you're doing, I'm getting ready to teach a drawing course, so if I seem to be talking a lot about specifics about drawing, I'm just sort of thinking things through out loud. My comic making course is going to be changed into a drawing course, just beginning drawing course, very soon. So I'm changing gears, thinking about drawing very deliberately and methodically, which is something I've not done since school again. But I am noticing a lot more satisfaction and kind of, I don't know, control of my process, because I'm being very deliberate about everything and thinking about it, planning. Like, I'm thinking, what'll happen if I do this, and then I know a little bit what to expect when I try something. I still try to experiment as much as possible, but experimentation is a lot easier when you have some idea what the outcome is going to be. Even if you're wrong, I mean, still, having an idea what's supposed to happen is better than nothing. And I really dig the way the sharp black lines look against the softer tone kind of feel of the color pencil. It works the same way with markers too, except I don't have a marker that's got a fine enough point that I can do this kind of shading-y type stuff with the pencil. You can blend pencils together too. I could probably get similar effect to markers with my pencils. Markers are really good for subtle gradations though. I actually did just buy some marker paper for the first time too, like legit marker paper that's bleed proof and everything. Local craft store was having a closing down sale. Not the one I work at, some other one. But everything was half off, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna give it a try. Haven't tried it yet. Haven't done anything with markers since then. But that was only a couple days ago. I will try that for the next thing I do. And it's an A3 size pad too, which for my friends back in the States and everyone who doesn't live under metric rule, it's about 1.5 feet long by about a little over 14 inches wide, maybe. It's pretty big. It's bigger than 11 by 14. So that'll be fun. I usually work tiny. I usually work like in a, what they call A5, which is about a 8 by 7, something like that, 6 by 7. Pretty small. This actually is a big book for me, and it's bigger. The one I'm talking about now is bigger than this. Interesting to see what I get up to with that. Especially with markers. It's hard to get markers to cover a large area for me. We'll see. So anyway, the class. I'm concentrating on my technique and how to communicate it. I've got 3 hours basically to teach non-artistic types drawing. Just the general principles. And I'm hoping to leave them with some exercises they can use if they want to continue learning. A lot of which I'm cribbing from people who've given me training. Not just my degree, but YouTube people that I've been watching and love. Like Proco. Proco.com. I think his name's Steve Prokopinko. I'm probably mauling that. I'm sorry about that. But his web channels, his YouTube channel is just under Proco. He's a great instructor. Especially figurative art. And there are a dozen more. I mean, that's just the first one I remember for traditional drawing. A lot of the traditional drawing stuff I've watched on YouTube and things are not from people who teach traditional drawings, like comic book artists or painters or something, and they're just doing it as a sideline. Here's my take on this thing, this part of what we do. Whereas the Broco thing is mostly just about teaching drawing. And I'm not stealing directly from him or anything. I'm just, his principles, the way he's presenting the material is something I would like to try. I'm also digging into my Loomis Bridgman. We'll see how that goes. I'm not really teaching figure drawing. I think that's a bit advanced for a non-artist to jump directly into, but I'm teaching them how to draw like any kind of shape they can see, how to break things down visually. Hopefully when they leave, if they keep up with the exercises, in a relatively short amount of time they'll be able to draw passably well anything they can see. And then move on to anything, sort of visualize things. Construction method, stuff like that. Just useful things. Hopefully. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. I have one more comic book making class rather to teach this weekend, and that'll be the end of that particular chapter of my teaching for now. I think they wanted to do it on a semi-regular basis, but that won't be my main class anymore. So maybe once a month they'll offer the comic class or something like that. I mean, they're a business. They have to go with the classes that people will sign up for. And since they're charging per person, it behooves them to have as many people as I can handle in the class. I get paid the same, whether it's one person or 10 people. And I'm sure they'd rather have it 10. There's no limit to how many people would like to teach, but 10's a good limit. I can handle 10, so I'd like to see 10 people in every class. Because that means you're helping more people. And they'd like to see 10 people in each class too. So I'm looking forward to that. A lot of coursework though. A lot of stuff to figure out, how to say it, what to say, how much to try to cover. The first class is going to be a bit of a white knuckler. See how it goes. It all kind of depends on how the people react to the material. I'm going to have to be flexible. I believe they call it agile in software development. Have to be responsive and adapt. So if I find out that I'm jumping into shape when no one understands how we use a line, then I have to slow down, back up. Truncate the course if I have to. I mean, why not? They're there to learn how to draw, enough to hear my material. But I think I could probably pull off enough that people will have the foundations of learning how to draw. That's pretty good for 3 hours. You just teach them how to see a little bit, what to look for, how to think about it, and then they can sort of figure out the rest. Like any good teaching, it's not about how, it's about why. I'd forgotten how difficult it is to think and have a consistent train of thought. That's how it actually feels. Train of thought while drawing. So it's another reason I love texture. It's kind of just mental busy work. Not a lot of pure thinking and planning going into this. I'm just kind of going back over my values, delineating the scales more. And again, if I was really being serious about it, I'd make sure that the side of the scale away from this light source had a thicker line than the side of the scale towards the light source to make it a little more dimensional. In addition to the shape changing and actual shade being drawn on the surface of the, that helps a lot too. For instance, this underside should have a significantly heavy line. But I don't really want this to be a line drawing. I want it to just be like a sketchy